It's my privilege to welcome the Honorable Senator Rich Funke here this evening, his Chief of Staff, Matt Nelligan, and his Deputy Director of Communications, Kevin Knapp. They're here to offer a proclamation for our girls lacrosse team's state title.
I'd also like to, on a very personal note, send a message to the girls and also to Senator Funke. The first one, many of you may not know this, and hopefully you do, but Senator Funke has helped us out a tremendous amount this last year. He has gone to bat for us with regards to funding and securing funding for full day K. He also has been a big part of pledging to work on a bill that would allow funding for full day K to flow through for the following year, working with all parties to get that done in a bipartisan way. And Senator, I'd also say that you've been tremendously accessible all the time. You answer my calls. Is Matt behind there?
No, Matt didn't make it.
Oh, he's not there. Okay. Matt's probably sick of talking to me.
He decided not to.
But as a senator, I really appreciate how much you value education and how much you support and champion Pittsford, and how knowledgeable you are about all the things that we look at as challenges. So we appreciate that. Thank you. And to the girls, holy cow. Honest to goodness, that was a roller coaster of a weekend, and the sense of pride that you brought to Pittsford from that win. And I was not at the final game, and it was a time when I wish I didn't have texts or getting tweets, because the game was like this, and it was at a time when we really needed good news. And sometimes it's you think about a sport and you just think about yourselves on the team and working together, and not thinking about the impact that you have on the greater community. And girls, you represented and coaches the community, the school district in the best and highest way. You showed a sense of resiliency. Winning in overtime is the best way to win states. It's something that you'll remember forever. And I hope that what you take away from it more than anything else is that you had choices in that game, just like you have choices in life, to either fight harder and try harder, or to give up and to surrender to a hard-fought battle. And you chose to persevere, and I'm so proud of you, and thank you, and wish those of you that are moving on to beyond Pittsford to remember to come back, and want to thank you for the value all of you have added to our schools and our community. So nice job, girls. And for the record, I predicted the win, and I think I told some of you that.
And Mike is expecting you to win again next year for those of you remaining, so.
I have a vested interest in Pittsford, the Pittsford School District anyway. Since I pay Pittsford school taxes, I have a vested interest in all of you doing well. I want to thank President Amy Thomas and the entire school board, and of course Superintendent Mike Pirro for the kind words, and of course Scott Barker and the entire athletic department for the opportunity to honor Coach Lopez and our state champions tonight. And thanks to the student athletes and parents who took the time to be here tonight. You girls may be too young to remember, I'm sure you are, but your parents aren't. I spent 40 years covering local sports on television, and people would always ask me, what was the greatest event that you ever covered? Was it the Super Bowl? Was it the Final Four, Ryder Cup, Calder Cup, things like that? And I said, yes, they're all great, but none greater than watching the unbridled enthusiasm of a high school team winning a sectional title, let alone a state title. The literal explosion of girls' sports on the high school level over my time covering sports in Section 5 may be the single biggest story that I covered in its totality. I remember when there were no girls' lacrosse teams and very little coverage of any girls' sports whatsoever. I remember my own station manager asking me why I bothered covering high school sports, let alone girls. And here's why. Sons and daughters are equally important to moms and dads who run from field to field. The things that you learn through team competition cannot necessarily be mimicked in a classroom. And they are life lessons about dedication, about sacrifice, about discipline, about humility and teamwork, about playing by the rules, and these are things that you will carry the rest of your life. And I dare say that all of the adults in this room have learned those similar lessons through athletic competition. You will never forget what it was like to lose a state title a year ago and what it took to get back to this championship game. You will never, ever forget giving up that 2-goal lead to Middle Country late in the game. You will never, ever forget what it took to bounce back and to hang in there. And you will never forget Ellie Mooney's game-winning goal on sudden death. You will never forget the relationships that you have forged through sports. And years from now, that game will become even bigger and more embellished as you tell your children about it. But you will always be the first Section 5 team to win a girls' Class A championship in Section 5. And for that, you should be very, very proud. So it's an honor and a privilege to represent you. It was a proud moment for me to recognize Pittsford on the floor of the Senate with this proclamation before in June after you won the championship. The problem with spring teams winning championship, state-level championship games is that we don't get the opportunity to invite you down to Albany because we run out of time. You have proms to go to and you have graduations to go to. But we would certainly welcome anybody who wants to come down to Albany to visit us anytime that you'd like to come. We would be honored to host you down there. I brought the copies of the resolution for each member of the team tonight. And again, I want to congratulate you on a job well done. I'm not going to read the proclamation. There are a lot of whereases and wherefores and legalese and stuff like that that goes on on the floor of the Senate. But there is one for each and every one of you. What I would like to do, however, is to present this first proclamation to Coach Lopez. Once again, congratulations, ladies. Great job. So proud of you. And, you know, we have little side bets down in the Senate, you know, so it was good to win one. I lost one and I won one. So I'm very proud of you. So thanks very much. And I have all proclamations for everybody. And I know the board has a lot of work to do tonight. So what we will do is step out in the back, and I'd like to meet each and every one of you if you'd be so kind as to come out with me.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.